Welcome to the AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. Today, my guests are Shean Kirin and Jeff Clark from Dealer Alchemist. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming to Akron. Is this your first time in Akron, Ohio?
It is.
It is?
It is indeed.
You picked a wonderful rainy day. That only happens 360 times a year.
I did see some sun poking out, so that was good.
Oh, nice. Well, hey, I want to get started with just a little bit about yourself. Shean, could you tell me a little bit about the career path that led you to where you are today?
Sure. So I'm a Colorado native, and I was in the car business in Colorado for 25 years. Mm-hmm. The last 8 of that, I was at a store called Tynan's in Colorado. It was a Volkswagen and Nissan store. And, I went all the way through the ranks, right? I started as a salesperson and worked my way up from there. Mm-hmm. In that final dealership, we used to joke that I didn't know what my job title was because every time something broke, they gave it to me. I started out as a consultant. Next thing you know, it was used cars, internet, digital advertising, special finance, fixing the CI process, all training. The list went on and on and on.
Wow, you did do everything.
It was a lot. They were incredible owners, and so it's real easy to work for people like that.
Cool. Well, Jeff, you recently joined the Dealer Alchemist team. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to do that?
Sure, absolutely. 20 plus years on the vendor side of things, and Shean was actually a client of mine back when I was the chief revenue officer at Dealer
Wow.
I would share with you jokingly how I used to refer to him, but I wouldn't want your team to have to edit that out. But we just literally over the years became great friends. Mm-hmm. And then I know that Shean had gone off and done a couple of ventures. So we just happened to cross paths with one another at NADA. One thing led to another in the conversation. I took a look at the technology. I saw what he was doing, and it just seemed to be a really natural fit.
Let's talk about GA4.
Okay.
It's fairly new. What are you seeing out there as far as dealers are concerned with the implementation of GA4?
As soon as you say that, so the nice thing about GA4 is that what it does is it allows better trackability for everybody that's on the website. Mm-hmm. And probably one of the best features is that it allows multi-touch attribution. So if a consumer touches the website multiple times in different places, it has a way to understand that better than old Google Analytics did. However, what we notice is that in the installations that happen, a lot of things end up broken. So when we go into an account and we go to make sure Google Analytics is perfectly set up, because mm-hmm. we track our own advertising through Google Analytics, right? Any company should. And so the challenge is that probably greater than 50% of the setups that we look at have events and conversions that are not properly firing. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't know how many calls are coming or click to call or forms are filled in Google Analytics, how are you really going to track performance?
And so you guys call yourself an ad tech company.
Yeah.
How is that different from an ad agency?
So as an ad tech company, we use technology to drive everything that we do. Mm-hmm. That is something that is not done today commonly. So again, another one of those reasons why it was so important for me to join the company. When you think of ad agencies today, you have humans in seats manually building ads. It's not an effective way. It's oftentimes very difficult, very expensive. And of course, when you have humans doing things day in and day out, you welcome in the opportunity for error. Mm-hmm. So by using the technology, we can build at any given time up to 17 different components to one single piece of inventory. So we're actually appealing to the responsive side of Google versus just doing brand and regionalized terms, which are traditionally more expensive.
Wow. So I imagine it's got to be a lot faster too, right? So instead of when a new incentive comes out, you're touching everything immediately as opposed to make a phone call, wait a week, and now you're a week behind your competition. Is that accurate?
It is. So a good way to describe it is that when you look at launching an account with a standard agency model, mm-hmm. it's a 30-day process. With us, it takes 7 days because it's built using technology, and usually 3 or 4 of those days are tracking down logins so that we can set up the technology to work. Mm-hmm. And then from there, the way that things are set up is with the technology able to understand and read what's happening in real time on the website, and the technology is also able to make real-time adjustments to the AdWords accounts, to the social accounts based upon available inventory, budget adjustments, so on and so forth. We don't have to have a human taking an email and trying to create copy from it. Instead, it's just automatically done in real time all the time.
Wow. So a new incentive comes out, or even better, a truck pulls in, you've got more cars in inventory. Nobody has to make a phone call. As soon as they hit the DMS, your system puts those cars everywhere.
Well, even better than that, right?
Yeah.
So in today's world, you have a lot of in-transit vehicles. And so the challenge is a lot of lots, especially the Toyota world, General Motors world. You're going to have anywhere between 50 and 90% of your inventory that's not in the DMS yet because it's in transit. It's on the website. It shows that it's coming, but it doesn't show up in the dealership system. With us, the second that vehicle hits the website, every keyword variation for that vehicle is automatically built. Every ad variation for that vehicle is automatically built. And so they could go from having 2 Silverados that show in transit to having 25 in transit. Our budgeting is going to automatically adjust and allocate more budget accordingly.
Oh, wow. Wow. So it's not just the ad creation, it's the budgeting as well. So
That's correct.
So the day that your example, 2 Silverados on the lot, 25 of them more are now in transit, that ad budget might go up tenfold.
And it could change dramatically. What we see frequently is there will be a dealership that has none of a specific model on the lot. All of a sudden, you turn around, next thing you've got 5 of them on the lot. Well, with us, when there's none on the lot, automatically the advertising turns off because there's nothing in transit. They're not going to be able to sell that car for the next 60 days anyways.
Yeah.
The second those things hit in transit, all of a sudden they can take that order. We pump in ad budget immediately so that we can continue to keep that process alive.
Oh, wow.
But honestly, Brian, it's more about just efficiency, right? If you're completely in tune with your inventory, not only what's on ground, but what's in transit, we're 30 to 50% more efficient with an ad budget, only because we're seeing it real time. Sometimes some of the things back to your agency, it can take days, even weeks for your agency to get up to speed with now what you have in the ground. We want to be selling that vehicle before it hits the ground. We literally want people placing deposits and working with their dealers to locate that vehicle. It's much easier to have it already sold before it hits the ground than it is to get there and say, well, by the way, I need to get a hold of my agency, give them the incentives, or I want to do this a little bit different. It's all real time, and it makes the dealership's life so much easier.
I think there's another benefit too, and that is that Google's always told us what they want, right? They want to give people the accurate click the first time they click on that ad. They want to, if you're looking at a toothbrush, they want to land you on the toothbrush that you want to buy the first time you click on it. Well, in the car business, that's always been difficult, right? And so with us, we are essentially making every vehicle completely visible to Google so that it can pick and choose the inventory that matches the consumer profile best. And by matching that up with data, we're able to make sure that they see that vehicle on the first click, they click on it, and it rewards us with a lower cost per click.
Wow. Well, I mean, and it has to help with floor plan too. If they're sold before they get there, you're not waiting around. You're not paying interest on the vehicle for 2 weeks while you wait to get the ads out.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to find that the first things that improve when we set up a client is their inventory turn rate gets better. And so anytime your inventory turn rate gets better, everything else improves, right?
Yep. Well, as an ad tech company, how does your technology differentiate you from your competition?
Well, I think a lot of it is what we were just talking about. It's instead of having to do all of this by hand and pick and choose which vehicles we're going to advertise, what are your top 3 vehicles you want to advertise this month? We don't have to have those conversations because it's automatically built. And so our technology really does 2 different things. The first thing that it does is that it creates the entire ad set on every single vehicle the second that it hits the website. And the second thing that it does is it combines multiple data sets into the back end of those platforms so we can tell who is truly about to buy right now, right? I mean, ultimately, it's all about this, right?
Yep.
We know the cell phone tracks all of us. It tracks who we are, where we live. It knows about you, your spouse, your income. It knows what are your hobbies, what do you drive. It knows everything.
Yeah, mine knows I'm a klutz. It gets dropped. It gets dropped all the time. That's right.
That's exactly how it goes, and which is why it probably tries to show you a phone case on occasion, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so, because that's what happens. You ever notice you're talking about something, and the next thing you know on your cell phone, you see the advertisement, right?
Yep.
Well, data sets allow us to be able to plug that in and understand who's a right now buyer, right? So we talk about it pretty frequently. Like, we're not a Google Premier partner. We have no plans to be because we don't really run display advertising, which is a whole nother hour-long conversation about how the ad spend is more efficient placed in other areas. But also, we want to put money where it works best. And so by combining multiple data sets into the back of these platforms, we don't have to worry about some quote-unquote end-market shopper list that everybody has had fail multiple times. Instead, we truly know who's looking right now. So if the dealer has the bright blue Silverado on their lot that only has a couple customers that are out there looking for it. The second someone in their market wants that vehicle, they're going to see it on every device, on every platform in their digital household.
Let's talk about the budget a little bit. I mean, you guys are seeing a lot of dealers' budgets. What are you seeing in the dealers that you talk to that aren't your customers yet? And then what are you telling them they should be doing with those budgets once they become your customers?
It's astonishing. A lot of waste. They don't, it's sad, Brian. Dealers are so busy, there's not enough hours in the day. They're constantly focused on whether they're remodeling the dealership or buying a new dealership, or, they're sometimes at the auction buying cars. If you sit in a dealership, sometimes it's fun to sit there for 15 or 20 minutes and just watch the activity that's moving. Sean and I were on a call not even a couple of weeks ago talking to a dealer down in Texas. $40,000 ad budget to sell 70 cars just on pay-per-click. And we both kind of had this reaction to one another on Zoom, and the dealer looked at us and was as if though, is that bad? You don't want to insult anyone. You certainly want to be respectful to the current vendor that they're using, but we're seeing a lot of waste. The natural reaction is, well, if you want to sell more cars, you got to spend more money. That's not the appropriate response. The appropriate response is, let's see what you're spending, let's see where you're spending it, how you're spending it, and are we efficient? Are you bidding on your own name? Are we doing brand and regionalized terms? More importantly, are you bidding against your own stores? Are you bidding against your own sister stores? Are you now fighting with the manufacturer in the same market? So much of that is not explained to the dealer, yet, if you want to sell more, you need to spend more money. And of course, most of your traditional agencies, they charge a fee. We don't. We have a flat fee for what we do. So instead of a percentage against the spend, the natural response would be, well, if we want to make more money as an agency, Brian, I need you to get that $40,000 budget up to $50,000 or $55,000 if you'd like to sell 50 or 60 cars. Again, the math doesn't always equate. So we see a lot of misspending, and we also see just a ton of duplication when we start to dig into some of these programs, and we realize that this provider A is providing these services, and B and C also are maybe overlapping on additional services. So the advice would be to any dealer out there, take a look at your services. If you're unsure, ask someone who knows, and then begin to ask the question. A lot of dealers will take the path of, well, let's cut so we can fit this. Let's not cut. Let's leave things where they are. Let's make the change, and then we can decide later what we can remove or what we can do without. So it's really, don't cut first. Look at what you're doing. Look at if we can more intelligently reallocate those funds. And then more importantly, how do we better spend that money going forward?
So it's, it sounds like, there's kind of two major cases there. You've got the dealer that says that's a good idea, and then somebody else comes up with something else. That's a good idea, and that's a good idea, and that's a good idea. And they just keep stacking up good ideas where maybe they only need one of those services.
Well, I think it's all about expertise, right? So when you're a dealer, you're an expert in all of these things. It's also hard to be an expert in digital advertising because it changes like the wind. And so you might have 4 different providers selling social media advertising to the dealership with overlapping platforms with a major profit margin where it's hidden and they're not aware of it. It's packaged in this package program. They've got this package with company A, this package with company B, this package with company C. Well, unfortunately, we're making everybody perform worse by doing something like that. Whereas, what if we take away both of those, reallocate those spend into one place without a markup, and get better performance at a lower fee? It's always about ROI, I think, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. That's why we're in business, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I want to ask you about OTT, and that's actually something that we at Babcock's do. So, we help our people reach our audiences on their televisions at home, and I kind of understand what we do, but I'd like to hear about how you guys use it and how it can be effective for a car dealership.
Yeah, that's a great question. OTT is the way of the future today. If you look at our media consumption, it's pretty significant. But more and more today, people want on demand. Regardless of what your show, and I could share all kinds of fun shows with your audience, I'm sure we'd get a great response. That's always fun to do when you're speaking to an audience of dealers and talk about, are you watching Lincoln Lawyer? Are you watching Yellowstone? Oh my God, did you see this episode? So you can tell very quickly that people are addicted to it. OTT, to be frank with you, has really become the Wild West. There's a lot of people out there selling it, and frankly, not all of them are being very transparent. about when those ads are running, if those ads are running on televisions that aren't powered on, right? And then really the creative is a struggle. Getting good quality creative and getting the right creative in front of the right audience. So OTT is an absolute tool that every dealer should be using. And if they're not using it, they need to kind of rethink their strategy and figure out a way to fit it in there. One of the things that we do within our platform, OTT, is included in what we do. And we actually automate and generate that content for them. And that content updates on a daily basis. So instead of hey, this is my brand ad, or this is my service ad, or this is a particular ad, it could be Lexus December to Remember. Everyone kind of knows those times of the year when you start to see certain ad tracks. We want to make sure that it's real, it's relevant, and it's an actual piece of inventory. So, our approach to OTT is, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Dealer, you absolutely need to do it. If you're not doing it, you need to think about it, and then take it a step further and think of all the service applications for decline service, or a customer that hasn't been in the service lane in more than a year. A lot of value in there. You can't sell them a car if they're not coming back to you. So we really try to take the time to educate our dealers, make sure that they understand how it operates, and give them a helping hand to make it a part of their omni-channel media mix.
How do you find the people? Because the way that we do it is, if you want to reach general managers or service managers at Kia dealerships in the Southwest, I know who those people are. So it's pretty easy for me to reach them with advertising for you. But how do you find people that are in the market to buy a Lexus?
So there is, in the data world, you can combine data sets in order to determine who's in market right now. You can also retarget people using OTT if you put the data sets together, right? And so the challenge is, a lot of companies come in and they want to hit the dealer with $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $8,000 in OTT spend, because you got to substantiate the substantial amount of commercial investment that they had just to build the commercials themselves. Well, for a lot of dealers, the right budget's $1,000 or $1,500. And so when you take out all of the people that are not actually looking to buy a car right now, and you only focus on the people that fit the exact profile that matches that dealership that are in market today, a lot of stores don't have that much budget. There isn't a fortune. There's not a lot of customers out there for that dealership that makes sense. So by combining data sets, you're able to tell which people are in market, what devices they're on, and also what inventory they're looking at. And because the commercials are dynamically generated according to the consumer, and every day is a new commercial, it's always something that's relevant. And 3 commercials over the course of the month are going to show them 3 completely different vehicle sets that match them.
Wow. So it's not just going to say that I'm in the market for a Lexus. It's going to show me the one that I've been looking at. It's going to actually show me the car that's relevant to me, not just come see Lexus.
Well, we are in a technology world, right? That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's just we've been waiting to make that happen for a long time, because it takes a long time to create data that can do that.
But OTT is powerful. I mean, it is one of the most underrated tools today, and a lot of dealers don't understand it, right? But if you think about linear television and the expense, I live in the Washington, D.C. market, right? Very, very expensive market to buy media on.
Yeah.
So when you're watching television commercials, during the 6 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock news, those are expensive spots. A smaller dealer, smaller market, smaller budget can absolutely compete, because now we've put something that's turnkey for them. They don't have the production costs. They don't have the creative cost. The CPMs are right in line with where they should be, so it becomes affordable for the dealer. And it gives them really a chance to spread their word, their brand, and really the message to consumers. But again, it's about that targeted consumer. If you look at how OTT operates, we can see whether or not you were looking for that vehicle on your phone. We know whether or not you were on your iPad or on your laptop, right? It can even go so far, and this really blows people away when we talk about this, we can actually resolve back to find out how many social media accounts are within that household. So not only are we hitting you a message on OTT, we also happen to know that you have a Facebook, a LinkedIn, a Snapchat, an Instagram account. So now think, as an ad tech company, what other great ways can we continue to hit that message or make that message apparent to the consumer?
Wow, that's cool. So you mentioned the decline service. I'm like really curious about that. So if I'm at home after I just declined a service, is it going to actually show me on my screen, whatever it might be, that I need to come back because my brakes are need to be fixed, and that here's a $25 coupon?
We can even take it a step further, right? You can get those decline services. You can even go after open recalls. I mean,
wow.
service advisors, where do they want, whether it's customer pay or warranty pay, right? We want you in our service lanes. So in getting those lists, it's as simple as giving us access to that information. And then we can actually target that physical household. Because again, we can see the time of day they're home, the shows they watch, what their interests are. Whether you're an HGTVer, right? Or whether you're Velocity Network, whatever channels that you tend to frequent, that message can get out there. And that incentive will be targeted directly to that household. Your neighbor's not going to see that same ad. They're not going to see the same incentive. So that eliminates everyone gets the discount methodology, which is concerning to dealers. There's no need for me to give a discount on a service if no one's asking for it.
Yeah.
But if I don't have you coming back in and I've got a significantly higher chance to get you to buy your next vehicle from me or service with me, if I can bring you back on that decline service.
Now, how many touches? Because you mentioned the OTT. We mentioned the social media. Like, how many touches is a customer normally going to get? That's in market from a dealer that's using your guys' system.
It's an interesting question because it's all over the map. Mm-hmm. What you find is some people that are in market immediately, it's 2 clicks and they purchase a vehicle. Other people, it's 250. So what we thought was that it was going to be a real simple metric that was going to be easy to understand. And what we discovered instead is that it's like a bell curve. And in that bell curve, you've got people that are 2 or 3, you've got people that are multiple hundreds. A lot of people, it's 25 to 60, right? And so they're going to see it all over the place in the middle of that buying decision. And that's why it's so important to be on all of the pieces of digital that they're going to consume, because every one of those pieces adds to the final decision.
I guess that's why you got to automate it too, because nobody sitting in a chair could ever have time to figure that out, right?
That's correct.
Right. And it's without automation and without ad tech, you can't scale that. It's too all over the place. Years ago, there was a theory that if a lead is submitted, the customer doesn't buy within 7 to 10 days, they're gone. Well, over time, as follow-up processes were set, as CRMs got better, as your messaging and follow-up got better, you started to see that wasn't necessarily the case. The same thing's applicable with other forms of media, right? Mm-hmm. The consumer, especially customers coming off lease, and think about it today due to just all the production constraints. It's not as easy just to get up and go to the local dealer and be able to guarantee you're going to get the F-150 that you want. Chances are that vehicle doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? So now you have to start looking months in advance to be able to get the Silverado, the Ram, the F-150 that you really wanted. So now those shopping cycles are actually getting longer because people are realizing, hey, I can't just go turn my vehicle in because they're probably not going to have what I want. And truck buyers, especially truck buyers, are more specific in what they want.
Yeah, and one of the things that I noticed even from my own household is my wife kind of goes back and forth whether she wants an EV or not, and she's been in the process of getting a new car for like 2 years. It's been like 2 years, and we can't decide, right?
This EV conversation is so important right now, right? You see it all over the news. They're starting to sit on dealer lots. Dealers are starting to notice that they have more EV inventory than they have gas inventory. Mm-hmm. The holding costs of those vehicles are going up, right? Well, the challenge is if you look at an EV ad, and when your wife was going to shop, what she probably noticed was every time she turned around, she landed on the car and driver shopping page or the manufacturer information page. And all you do at those pages is get inundated with information. Well, what we know in the car business through advertising and through analytics is that when they land on those information pages, that's where they go to think. That doesn't create a buying decision. Whereas when that person is actually in market, if you can show them the vehicles that they can buy right now and touch and feel and drive, that's how you solve that problem. The way to sell an EV is not by sitting on them on a page and trying to convince them that it makes sense. It's to stick them in the driver's seat and let them feel the difference in acceleration. Let them feel what automatic braking feels like. Let them feel technology, right? Technology has always gotten people excited about cars, and whether we like it or not, we have to sell EVs. And so deciding that we hate them or we love them, that doesn't help us sell them. What does help us sell them is figuring out what is the best method to put that person that's shopping right now in front of that vehicle so that they can get to it and make a buying decision. Like, how many has your wife actually driven so far?
None. She's driven none.
That's why.
We went to a dealership to drive one, and they didn't have one. And, now she's like, well, which one do I want? How am I going to charge it? Just all the, the more she learns, the more questions she has.
Well, so imagine that what happened instead was that when she started looking, she picks whichever the brand is. Doesn't matter the brand, right? And next thing you know, she sees the dealership's ad showing there with the available inventory. She gets to the search results page in the first click that shows all of those vehicles that are available right now. She doesn't go to dealer A that doesn't have them. She goes to dealer B that does have them because they show them in stock. And instead of not driving, she started driving one from the very beginning. She felt the acceleration. She felt the braking. She saw the technology. She saw the touchscreen. Do you think she would have been thinking about it? Or do you think there's a very good chance that you'd be figuring out how to put a new charger in your garage after she already bought it?
Well, I mean, she's been shopping so long, we'd probably be getting ready to lease our second one.
That's right. Exactly.
Well, hey guys, I really appreciate you coming out today. Is there one last piece of advice that you think that we should share with the audience before we go?
Yeah, we have a small pet peeve, and I think this is a perfect place to describe it. If we were to give every dealer a piece of advice, it would be you should absolutely have your AdWords account connected to your analytics account. And when it's properly connected, you can see 100% of every single Google AdWords spend, every single penny in that analytics account. And if you can't, there's a reason they don't want to show it to you. It's because something's being hidden. There are 0 reasons not to connect that account. There are none. It's transparent, it's clean, it allows the dealer to see access to it, and they can't change it. They can't mess it up. There's nothing that can go wrong with that. And what we learn in the car business, right, is if you can't see it, what are the chances somebody's hiding something from you?
Oh, almost always 100%.
Yeah, so if I was to give every dealer probably one of the most important pieces of advice, it would be, verify, right? Trust but verify. And you verify by connecting the AdWords account to the analytics account. And once you get your invoice, take a look at your AdWords spend, take a look at your invoice, and make sure they're the same. We saw an account 2 weeks ago that probably had a 300% markup in some of those campaigns.
Holy moly.
And it wasn't 20%, it was 300%.
Frankly, it happens more often than a lot of people would even begin to imagine. Because the natural, well, that can never happen to me. Well, sure it can, because you don't see it. It's hard to identify the bleed off when you are making money and being profitable. I mean, let's be honest. Dealers have made more money than they've ever made over the last couple of years.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? So when you're sending, armored car trucks to the bank carrying all the cash, sometimes you're not always closely inspecting what exactly is going on. And sometimes there's, again, just a lack of knowledge. You have wonderful organizations out there like Digital Dealer and NADA and others that provide these classes that will train you what to look at and where to look and, how to account for those things. So, Sean's right. Let's, make sure that they're connected, make sure that you're asking the hard questions. And if your current provider isn't answering those questions, there's something they don't want to disclose or a conversation that they don't want to have. And that's when maybe it's time to start looking and asking, hey, what else is out there?
Yeah, you'll frequently see that they say it's in the dashboard. It's in the dashboard means I didn't want to connect the AdWords account because I didn't want you to see something. And the dashboard is beautiful. It's wonderful that there's an advertising dashboard that allows you to easily see all that, but the dashboard does not contain one-to-one transparency. The only thing that contains one-to-one transparency is analytics with AdWords connected to it, where you can see true cost on every campaign.
I mean, it sounds like that would be a lot easier to do than to learn all the ways that somebody could be getting over on you.
That's
Well,
right.
think of dashboards as grading your own term paper.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, think back to college. How great would it have been? I mean, we would have all been geniuses. We would have all been magna cum laude if we're sitting there grading our own term papers. Your dashboard is meant to reflect, to simplify things. And there have been times GA has overcomplicated things, but it's about setting it up correctly. So don't always trust the dashboard you're seeing. Ask the hard questions. Hey, is this fully transparent? And if it is, look, there are pros and cons to every business model. There is no one perfect business model, but you're never going to be able to evolve and continue to improve your business model as a dealer unless you truly know where your money's going. Everyone's entitled to a profit, but the profit needs to be reasonable.
That's right.
Cool. Thanks for coming, guys.
Oh, it's
Thank
our
you for
pleasure.
having us.
Thank you for having us.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, my guests have been Shean Kirin and Jeff Clark from Dealer Alchemist. We hope to see you again soon. This episode is Over the Curb and Burning Gas.